trust is your currency. I mean, it is just a lifetime, it's a continuous thing that you must always do. Honesty, integrity, reliability. If you do these things on a continuous basis, like a good diet, you get really good outcomes.
Welcome to Learning from Leaders, a podcast from Southwestern Medical Foundation where we dive into a world of wisdom, mentorship, and innovation, exploring the insights and life lessons of seasoned community and business leaders. I'm Michael McMahon, President and CEO of Southwestern Medical Foundation. I invite you to subscribe now and join us on this empowering journey of growth and leadership. Now, let's learn from the best and drive meaningful change together.
Welcome back to Learning from Leaders. Today's guest has been a major influence in both civic leadership and economic policy. Alfreda Norman served as Senior Vice President at the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas, where she led communications and public outreach that promoted economic growth. With a career rooted in economic inclusion and community development, Alfreda is also a mentor, an active board member, and a passionate advocate for equity. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Sure, I'm happy to be here.
Okay, well, to get us started, we'd love to just hear a little bit more about your career journey. Most recently, you've been at the Federal Reserve of Dallas. Could you tell us a little bit about that role?
Well, I'm on the other side of working. I'm on the other side in this thing called retirement, which I call my third act. But yeah, I ran our public communications and our public outreach, our community development work at the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas, and it was a joy and quite a journey. When I started, I had no idea I would end up in that situation where I was leading those functions, but really enjoyed doing that. And basically, that was really trying to be the public interface from the institution to the public, right? So telling the story, having messaging that people could understand, inviting feedback, having interesting content on our website at all times, content in our bank, in our conference centers, sending our economists out to speak, having roundtables. And, we have quite a bit of territory to cover, all of Texas, northern Louisiana, and southern New Mexico. So that's a lot of territory. So getting our principals, which is our CEO and other leaders in the bank, out to all areas of our district was part of what we did. And then, of course, there are things, mundane things that one must do, like media relations and setting up public appearances and doing all the things that are necessary to get the chief communicator, which is the CEO of the bank, out so that people could hear what he's thinking and then also get feedback that would be helpful to him and the board of directors.
Right.
So that was the joy of the job. I also had the pleasure of leading the community development work. So that was really being mindful and being very attentive to the needs of low, moderate income communities and underserved communities. So doing that again across our district and then working with the other reserve banks on that as well. So it was a joy for 20 years.
It's a big, all-encompassing role. So you mentioned earlier that you didn't necessarily expect that you'd find yourself in this role, looking back to the beginning of your career. So could you start at the beginning? How did you find yourself in this role?
Well, it's one of my talks that I do at the bank when I talk about leadership, about you never know where you might end up. So, the whole reason I came to Texas is I went to SMU and I was a dance major. So, and by the way, dance and history.
Wow.
Yeah.
So if you're a dance major, do you major in a particular type of dance or style of dance?
Yeah, jazz, modern, and ballet. And SMU has one of the strongest dance departments in the country.
That's incredible.
At the time, and still is. Now, all these years later, I'm on the Meadows board. So I'm advocating again, once again, full circle. But yeah, I came to Texas from Chicago. My father, just bless his heart, let me do this. It was the only school I applied to. They did a lot of recruiting in my high school. I went to pretty much a college prep sort of school, and I thought that it fits the bill. So thankfully, I was accepted. So that's how I ended up at SMU. That's how I ended up in Texas. But what do you do with a dance and history major once you graduate? So I went on to UTD and decided to major in humanities, which was another resume buster decision. But the greatest thing about that is I had an opportunity to create an internship at the Dallas Arts District.
That's incredible.
Sort of that internship sort of started the whole thing, and I was hired, and that started the trajectory. Started in the arts, of course, with the Arts District, but then ended up at the Fed.
With lots in between there, right?
Lots in between.
That's incredible. So when you were having this experience in the Dallas Arts District, this was like really the very beginning of a lot
Oh,
of what what we
yeah.
know the Dallas Arts District as today.
Oh
Could
my
you
gosh,
could you talk
yes.
about what it was like at that time? Like
Yeah,
what
I
sorts of
mean,
things were you working
when I
on?
graduated, I really wanted to get, I wanted to go in arts administration. At the time, SMU did not have a program. They do now. They have a stellar program, and you get your MA and your MBA. But I didn't have that opportunity. So, but when I started doing research and looking around, one of the most exciting projects in the United States was right in Dallas, and it was the Dallas Arts District. There's a whole master plan. PLB Montgomery had this unbelievable vision, and all of the arts patrons had a vision for what this arts district could be. Now, when I started, the DMA had just been built not too long, as relatively new, but no Meyerson, no AT&T Center. I mean, this was all a dream on paper. So imagine, having that vision and working with people that were trying to make that happen for the city. It was amazing. It was like getting my MBA because I was working on actually implementing the plan. And we had a small foundation. So I got a chance to start giving money away and doing programming and really being a part of this, which is the magic of Dallas, which is big dreams,
Right.
like
So
go
much
big
entrepreneurial vision.
or go home, right?
Yeah.
And that's what the Arts District is. And it's just, it was just an amazing thing to do and to be a part of. And there's nothing like real life. It's nice to get it in the classroom, learn about it, but it doesn't beat actually trying to do it. And so that's kind of how things started in the Arts District. And I moved from there, loved that. And then there was an opportunity at the Office of Cultural Affairs with the City of Dallas, and I ran the small arts program. And that was amazing too. So, so the arts was sort of my grounding, but it also gave me the chance to be in the community and learn so much about different, all the cultural richness in the city. There was just amazing things in the Asian population. We were doing, New Year's, new moon celebrations, and we were doing gospel festivals and working with the Teatro Dallas. So it was just a great chance to really sort of submerge yourself in the sort of the cultural treasure chest of Dallas.
Absolutely. Well, on a personal note, maybe a few years after you, I was an intern for the AT&T Performing Arts Center.
Oh, gosh.
And so got to see a lot of how that marketing and programming works. And it's just incredible to kind of reflect, just as a Dallasite, but also as a former AT&T Performing Arts Center intern, just to see how far everything has come and just how much growth the project has spurred for Dallas.
I was in the Meyerson for a concert this past week, and I just had to stop in the park, in the underground parking garage, because I remember when that garage was built. We had a garage, but no buildings in the early days. And just to think, fast forward in like 2 decades, what has been accomplished.
It's really remarkable. Okay, so then when you found yourself in kind of this community outreach role, neighborhood development role on the banking perspective, so many questions about that. I'd love to hear kind of how you talked about, the exposure that you got to different parts of the Dallas community through your arts roles and your City of Dallas role. How did you kind of take that experience and knowledge and insight into more of the banking side and community outreach side?
Well, I was just minding my business. I was just doing my thing in the community and having a great time. I had just successfully written a National Endowment for the Arts grant. I was so excited. And I was knee deep in really trying to work with the city and the artists and so forth. All right. So then I get this call. I get a call from Bank of America, and they say, hey, this was Legacy Bank of America coming in from San Francisco. We're coming to Texas. We're buying up a lot of savings and loans, and we're going to start a Bank of America Texas. And we're looking for a person to fill a position called a neighborhood development officer. And I'm thinking, what is it? What does that mean? Are you familiar with CRA? I'm like, CRA, Community Reinvestment Act. Well, back then I run down to the library because we didn't have the World Wide Web at that time. I had to go down to the reference desk to find out what all of this was. And as I was learning about the Community Reinvestment Act, which was, it was mandated by Congress that financial institutions have an obligation to the communities in which they serve. So if they're taking deposits, they need to also make investments in those communities. I thought, that's interesting. And they said to me, we will teach you banking. That's really not, you can learn banking. It's going to be easier to teach you banking than to try to teach a banker about the community. And by the way, we'll have a blank slate. We want you to come up with the whole strategy for the Dallas district. Oh, and by the way, can you do East Texas too?
While you're at it.
That was almost a deal breaker, but turned out to be a great thing. So that's how it all started. And sure enough, they did teach me banking. I went to banking school. I had my lending credentials. I had a team. And it was an amazing opportunity to sort of jump in, take all that I knew about the arts. And by the way, I was able to give monies away to, at the same time, to the art, all my art, all my friends in the arts along the way. But it was a great opportunity to begin to learn the business of of of, of investment in people. But it also began to sharpen my skill sets, which was being the bridge between an institution and a community, being the voice between the two, being the translator between the two, understanding both sides, and then trying to find a middle ground, because each of those entities need each other. And so that sort of launched. And so I happily started my career at Bank of America.
So I'm curious, when you have maybe talked to perhaps like counterparts in other cities, what do you think kind of makes the Dallas piece of this role unique?
Well, Dallas is a unique, and I didn't think I'd stay here. Okay, I came to SMU. I'm like, I do my 4 years, I'm done, I'm back. But I happened to meet my husband my freshman year, which is another added bonus of going to SMU
Of
at the time.
course.
And he's from Dallas.
Okay.
He's a Texan, although he was willing to go. But Dallas really had such an allure back then, and it still does, of a place where you can make a difference, where you can jump in, where you can immediately get started on something. Big dreams, big bets. It's a very vibrant community in terms of possibility. And in my job, I work when I was at the Dallas Fed, of course, in my district, but I worked across the country. And I felt like I was the ambassador for Dallas, because people are like, oh, what's the big deal? And I would, talk about what we talked about, and then I would bring people. That's the best way to do it. Words and brochures are nice, but
Need to see it.
bring people.
Yeah.
Not just Dallas, but all of Texas, because in both my careers at the bank and at the Fed, I worked all throughout Texas. And people are constantly amazed and astounded by the people, by the diversity of people, the diversity of geography, the diversity of firms and people coming here from all over the country and the world. The sophistication, if you will,
Right.
of the city and the visions and the plans that people have, and the relationship. This is a relationship town. You get to know people, and people give to people. People give money to people. People give time to other people. So it's very relationship based, and you spend a lot of time, growing, deepening your relationships. And so that's what makes Dallas, Texas, an interesting and unique place to live, work, and play.
Absolutely. And when you think about, I guess, both on the individual level, but also at the institution level, like, what does it look like? What does it mean to really, like, deeply and authentically be connected to our community?
Well, I mean, I've been thinking about this. In the most basic format, community just simply means being in a relationship with someone. It means, I care about you, you care about me. And the only way that we care about each other is we got to know each other. We have to talk.
Right.
So being engaged in the community, and as a leader, whether that community is the community of your employees, the community of your customers and constituents, your stakeholders, it's being in relationship. And that's a game changer. When I care about you, you care about me. Then we can have conversations, we can disagree about things, but we have each other's best interests in mind. And I think that's the basis of having community employee relationships, any relationships. It's just imperative. So community is important because it's where you have your building. It's where your employees live. It's where it's where you are, your kids are going to school, and you have relationships in your places of worship. So building community is very important. When people come to Dallas, they're coming to the community. They're coming to people. They're not coming to buildings. And It's nice, but they're coming because they're sort of figuring out who's there, and they're getting engaged with people, and that's what brings people. Good people beget, good people. So I think this whole notion of community relations and having an understanding of engagement is just a very basic need to be, human connectedness is just really important.
Learning from Leaders, along with Southwestern Medical Foundation, is powered by generosity. Your support can help fuel breakthroughs in medical research, provide critical patient care, and support medical education. Additionally, it helps support the Learning from Leaders podcast and content like this. Every gift matters. Consider making a contribution today at swmedical.org/give. That's swmedical.org/give.
You've been such an incredibly remarkable driver of equity and access in Dallas. What do you think our leaders, whether they're business leaders, civic leaders, should be thinking about how to effectively foster that sense of equity and access? And how do you think that maybe has changed in terms of the right ways to do that, when you started your career versus the time that we're living in now?
Yeah, I mean, it's all, you've got, it's got to be politically correct, I guess, if you will. But I think if we all, and as I'm working with the nonprofits that I'm with now, and as people are sort of thinking about their work and how to do things, I think just this notion of approaching things from a perspective of abundance, right? We in Texas are extremely, that's why we have such a strong economy. We have abundance.
Right.
We have abundance of resources. We have abundance of geography and space and different firms, abundance. We have a diversity in our economy. We're a minority state, right? We have a diversity in our people and our backgrounds. And so if you think about abundance versus deficit, it changes the way you think about things, right? So therefore, if I'm doing well, you're not going to do less well because there's plenty, right? The state of Texas, we're abundance. Our country, we are in abundance. If you look at our economy, we have the strongest economy in the world. We come from abundance, not deficit. And it's the zero-sum game that gets us in trouble, that thinks that if I do well, that means someone's going to, do less well. And I think that's, if we come from that spirit with our approach to equity and access, is that there is enough for us all. And so then we think about, well then, what do most Americans agree upon? We disagree about a lot of things in this country. But one thing that we do agree upon is that this is the land of opportunity. People really believe if you work hard, anything's possible and you can get things done. So when you put opportunities with abundance, there's enough to go around and the pie is big enough, then you approach equity in a much more healthy way versus from a deficit, a shortfall, or, I'm going to be gypped or someone's going to cut me in line type of thing, is a different perspective. And I think if we could begin to think of it that way, it would be much healthier for us all, because we do come from abundance.
Absolutely. And you talked about kind of, the basis of forming community is really forming trust. Could you talk about some lessons that you've learned over the years around how to respond in moments where maybe trust has been tested in a community?
Yeah, from the work that I've done all these years in community work, community relations, community development, all that work, trust is your currency. It's when you go out and you're creating relationships and working with people, it's all about, and trust has so many variables: honesty, integrity, reliability, one's best interest. And so trust is and it's fragile,
right?
And you can lose it. But it's something that is not like it's not like a diet where you sort of do it sometimes when you feel like it, getting a few weights. I think I better get on that diet. No, right? A good diet is a lifetime of eating right? Trust is just a lifetime. It's a continuous thing that you must always do. And so, trust is just really important. Now, I learned during the Great Recession, being at the Fed, it was tough because there was a movement called End the Fed where people had just lost
Mm-hmm.
trust because they didn't know who we were. They didn't, it was this big institution in the sky. And so really I learned then that trust is about all the little things that you do constantly, being accountable, being transparent, having conversations, admitting you're wrong, listening, taking in people's perspective, seeing people, hearing people, valuing people, just little things, um, bringing people, being inclusive, bringing them into the conversation, recognizing, having humility, being authentic. If you do these things on a continuous basis, like a good diet, you get really good outcomes. And you build this muscle called trust. And, it's everything. With your community, with your employees, with your customers, with your clients. Trust is essential for strategy, for anything that you do. And so it's just little bite-sized things continuously. And that's what we were doing at the bank at the time. Messaging in language that people could understand, not using jargon that nobody gets.
Right.
Recognizing that you don't have all the answers. Bringing more people into the process. Meeting with your biggest, the folks that have the most problem with you. Meet with them.
Yeah.
Sit down, talk, figure out where where there's maybe disagreement or misunderstanding, but making the effort. It really, it was amazing how that paid off during that time. And the Federal Reserve is made up of 12 reserve banks, and then there is the Board of Governors in Washington. That's sort of the monetary policy city on the hill. But the 12 reserve banks are right in the middle of their communities, and they are, right at the line of talking to people every day. And we began to get feedback from our reserve banks that people really began, they trusted the institution. Why? Because of the people that they were interacting with every day.
Right.
And so again, it's, little things constantly done over and over again to build this thing called trust. And then and when you have it, to really recognize how valuable it is.
It's really, really incredible advice. And on the topic of relationship building, we talk a lot on this podcast about mentor relationships.
Yeah.
Could you talk about the role that, mentorship has played in your life and how you think about mentoring those who have kind of come behind you in your roles?
Well, wow. I could go down a rabbit hole on mentorship because it means so many things to so many different people. I tell a lot of folks that I work with or people that I'm, that are seeking mentorships or mentees, it's like, I always tell people to get yourself your personal board of directors around you. Some call those mentors, some call those, friends,
Right.
those acquaintances or colleagues or whatever that might be. Surround yourself with people who can encourage you, people that can give you advice and wisdom to guide you. That's what a mentor does, guide you. Mentors can be short-term. It could be a very short season in your career or life, or it's long-term. It's forever. There's different snippets. People come in at different times. People come into your life. So always think of it as a flow of people and experiences. But know this, if you talk to anybody who is successful or someone that has arrived, or it's not a singular endeavor. You do not get to places by yourself. And if you do, it's it's a slog, and you might not be as successful as you might think. You need people. You need people all the time, at all hours of the day, to help you in personal matters, in professional matters, in social settings, to help you and to be your guide. So if you call those mentors or mentorees, some people do, some people might call it other things, but some people get nervous about that, being a mentor. But it's a two-way relationship where the bottom line is that you care about each other. I care about you, you care about me. And you're seeking advice and wisdom. And you can only do this after you sort of know yourself. You need to know your own strengths. You need to do the homework first. Don't ask a mentor to tell you who you are, what your weaknesses and strengths are. That's your homework. So you've got to do your own homework first. And then figure out, oh my gosh, who do I need around me? What's my weakness? I need someone to shore up my weaknesses. I need someone to tell me about their journey. I need to,
Absolutely.
And then, by the way, mentorship is a two-way street. When you are a mentor, you get just as much out of the situation. So I find myself in a situation where if you're not doing that if you look at your calendar each week, and if you're not sitting down or having coffee with someone or sharing something or, you know what I mean? Speaking something into someone else's life or learning about their experiences. If you don't have that again in your daily or your weekly agendas, you're missing something.
Mm-hmm.
So it's little things, little bits and times of pieces, but it's so important to do for yourself and for others. It's a very strong and powerful thing. I just feel, as you can tell, I feel pretty passionate about this whole thing called mentorship. And when you're doing your work, I mean, your legacy, when you do leave, when you get to be a woman of a certain age or a man of a certain age and you do leave, your legacy is all of that relationship building and all that time you've spent with people, because there's people filling in behind you. And you see individuals who are growing and doing amazing work, and you might have had a little bit to do with that.
Definitely.
I work a lot at the bank with lots of people that are starting out in their career or been in their career and striving to be at higher levels in management and leadership at the bank. And there are three things that I always try to share from just my life experiences, which is, number one, really take the time to know yourself and to really discover who you are and, know your strengths and weaknesses. And then once you do that, start asking for advice and feedback, right? Get some feedback about who you are and what you do in certain circumstances. Ask your trusted folks to give you feedback. And then finally, to spend time in the presence versus the future and the past. So oftentimes we're thinking about the future and what am I going to do and what do I need to do, or lamenting about the past, or right? But being present is a real gift that you give somebody when you're in their presence, when you are fully engaged, when you're listening. If you can get in the habit of being present, it makes you an amazing leader, an amazing friend, and those are the things. If people could just do three things, I think it would be really worthwhile for their career projections and for success in life.
Definitely, and just general relationship building in any capacity.
Yeah.
That's really great advice. Could you talk about, there's one question that we always ask all of our guests on Learning from Leaders, which is, could you talk about a mentor in your life that has been the most influential or among the most influential in your career?
Yeah, that's a hard question because there's so many people. Two stand out. One is someone along my journey in life that really taught me a lesson, and he called it the grace of authority. Oh my gosh. When you sort of start digging into that and understanding what it means to have grace in leadership, and then watch this person not just say it, but demonstrate it, and show the way on how to do that. Oh my gosh, that was life-changing. And it's something I try to share with all the folks that I talk to and have the opportunity to talk about their careers and their life. And then just one of my bosses just was an amazing mentor. Why? Because they're like your cheerleader. They're like your constant, you're great, you're wonderful, or why didn't you, why are you down on yourself, and why don't you do that? And by the way, these mentors are amazing because they advocate for you when you're not there. They advocate for you in other rooms. They advocate for you in so many situations, and they're setting up your success in so many ways. And I had a person that did that in my life, and it was amazing to have someone believe in you. And everybody needs a little bit of efficacy about themselves and what they're capable of doing, and having somebody talk to you again in your ear on a continuous basis is just really powerful.
Absolutely. So you, over the course of your career, have been so deeply engaged in the community, both in your kind of day-to-day work, but also just in your own kind of volunteer time. Can you talk about some of the organizations that have kind of meant the most to you in terms of just a volunteer capacity or a board membership capacity?
Yeah, I mean, I've had the great honor and ability to mingle my work and the things that I do in my volunteer and on my board service because they work together. So because of the service, my volunteer service, my board service, it made me stronger at my job. It made me really understand the issues. It made me understand how what people are thinking. How can you solve? How can you take action? What are the variables that you need to solve for? Trying to make the world a better place. So now, I mean, I always work with organizations that sort of align with my own personal mission. Um, you know, I my personal mission is solving market failures in low-income communities, which is a very fancy way to say, how do we, again, in the spirit of abundance, provide opportunities for everybody to have a chance
Right.
to do well? I mean, what you do with that chance once you get it is one thing, but gosh, can't we all have an opportunity to have that chance? And by the way, what if everybody did do well? We would only be better as a society. So I like to work with nonprofits that sort of have that, that mission focus, which most do. And I'm particularly working on the areas of what we call Cradle-to-Career,
Okay.
which is really thinking about 0 to 5, moving up to opportunity youth or youth that are just making the transition from high school to work, then moving up to re-engaging adult learners, right? All the way college, all the way up to Cradle to Career. And so any nonprofits that I work to are usually within that Cradle to Career spectrum, and that keeps me jazzed.
Definitely. And I'm curious, kind of tying that back to Dallas and the incredible growth that we've seen here. We've seen certain sectors like the, biotech or life science sector, and you've been very involved with Dallas College, has had a lot of wins in that space, really training next generation talent. Like, what are some of these kind of high demand sectors that you've seen, and how are you thinking about making sure that those become available to your point about Cradle to Career?
Yeah.
How do you get kids thinking about these careers and opportunities at a young age?
Well, good question. I mean, that's the fun of it, of it all. It's like there's a line from a Broadway show called Mame. It's like, life is a banquet and most poor suckers are starving to death. There is so much to think about. There so many things, jobs that haven't even been created yet, opportunities that are out there. And so how do you sort of get that excitement in kids so that they want to stay in school? I think we have a great ecosystem in Dallas. We have been working together for as long as I've been at this work for 20 years. And we've gotten better, particularly in the last 5 years of really working together and utilizing and leveraging everything that we can think of, because we've got to move systems, right? It's not enough to do 1 or 2 kids. You got to do hundreds and thousands. When you do anything in Dallas or Texas, you've got to do things to scale. And so you have to experiment a lot. And that's what foundations, nonprofits, philanthropists do. They can do pilot sort of things. And then you got to take it to scale. So yeah, like, what's the best thinking to get kids excited about careers? Well, we've got this group and that group, and if I fund them and if you fund them, if we work together, if we try it out, if it works, hey, why don't we try to take it to scale? Let's go down to Austin and tell them about our success and ask for some public dollars to fund this thing, because we've got the research and we've shown that it works, it has efficacy, and let's do this. And that's kind of the way we've been rolling, to solve some of the biggest problems that we have. The problems that we have are not going to be solved by, up high government program or some program that's going to solve it. It's going to be solved not from the grass tops, but the grassroots, right? Us all working together, coming up with our best ideas. That's the magic. Coalition building, collaboration. And then you start doing your theory of change, and then you start getting that in systems, and then you really start making a difference.
What do you think are some of the most effective ways to coalition build and get some of these really, really, strong nonprofits working more closely together?
Well, coincidentally, it boils down to relationship. If I am paying attention to what you're doing and you're paying attention to what I'm doing, if we begin to think strategically together, if we begin to align our resources and our investments, right? Even in the work that I was doing at the bank or the nonprofits, here's the question. If you're doing something and you're doing it by yourself or singularly, you're out of alignment, right? You need to go find whoever else is doing this, whoever else is thinking about this, and you need to join up because that is the only way. These problems that we have are complex and very difficult, and singular, niche, little programmatic things are not going to solve for the big stuff, right? So again, it's honing relationships. Like if I'm a nonprofit and you're a nonprofit, we might be competitive. Well, we need to figure out where we cross and where we can work together, right? Because if I'm investing, I need to invest in things that work. And I'm finding that, two heads are better than one, three heads are better than one. Right? So that's kind of the way, that's the secret sauce these days on systems work, is coalition building, having a table, what we call the table. Who's around the table? Who's missing? Who do we need to get to the table?
Right.
Who's not there? And I'm talking nonprofit. We need business leaders.
Mm-hmm.
We need civic leaders. We need everybody to the table. We need all sectors represented. We need different people represented. We need the people that we're working with, right?
Absolutely.
There's a lot of art to this,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a lot of science to this, but I think we know how to do this. There's a lot of work that's been done around collaboration. And so, that's the secret sauce. And by the way, Dallas is a really good place for that because that's what we do. We do
Definitely.
relationship work. We do collaboration. Why? That's the only way. Listen, the Dallas Fed, even the fact that back in 1912 when we became, they were handing out the different reserve banks, Dallas got it because they were, they knew this person and that person, and they got this person in the room, and then they got them on a train, and then there was nobody they forged partnerships and forged relationships. That's what we're good at. And so I think there's some great things coming out of North Texas, out of Texas as a whole, because of this notion of sort of collaborative working together, leveraging things.
Yeah, totally agree with you. We're currently sitting in the offices of Southwestern Medical Foundation, on which you have been deeply engaged. Could you talk about what that involvement has meant to you, and really what your time on the board has meant to you?
Yeah, one of the great things that I had the opportunity to do when I was working at the bank and working community development is we did a whole series on the importance of health and learning that your zip code was a stronger determination of your life outcomes than your DNA code. And so we did a whole series about health and healthy communities and what that meant. And I just began to work with the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation on a couple of things. And then I discovered the most amazing institution right in our backyard, which is UT Southwestern. When I started learning, and actually during COVID, our CEO, we had a strong relationship with UT Southwestern to sort of help us and guide us through that very trying and dark time when it came to, what's the best thing to do for our employees. I could not believe the jewel of UT Southwestern. And then when I had the opportunity to be on the foundation board, it's just been one aha after the other. The amazing people that are brought here to this community, the life-changing work that's being done. It's singularly one of the most exciting things. I don't have a lot to contribute in terms of knowing a lot about health and the sciences, but just being in the same room as people that are making such a difference in the health of this community has just been a pleasure.
Absolutely. Well, I'm taking that with a grain of salt because I imagine that you have an enormous amount to contribute. But you're so right. We're so incredibly lucky to have UT Southwestern in our backyards in Dallas. I think of it kind of on a similar wavelength to the Arts District as being one of these key drivers of really attracting so many people and businesses and companies to Dallas and making sure that our community is flourishing. And before we get to some rapid fire questions,
Yes.
I have one more question for you, which is, what is your vision for Dallas over the next 10 to 20 years?
Oh, gosh. Well, I don't, just to meet all of the expectations that we have. I think we have some really big dreams. And if we could actually meet what we have in our vision collectively, and this vision supersedes sort of, race and politics, and, we just want playgrounds and where kids can play. We want opportunities for kids to go to school and find their career path, and we want our kids to do better than us. So I think just meeting the visions that we set for ourselves, if we actually meet some of the vision that we have, it's just going to be a spectacular place to live, work, and play.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for all of the work that you have done towards that vision. And just to end, we have some quick rapid fire questions. So first thing that comes to mind. Okay, first is, what is a hidden talent or hobby that people might not know about you?
Oh, well, they probably didn't know that I'm a classically trained dancer, and
Now I know. So
yeah,
glad to know that.
Yeah.
Who was one of the first public figures that you remember inspiring you?
Ooh. Barbara Jordan was one of oh my gosh, I thought she was absolutely amazing.
What is a book that you are currently reading or just generally recommend?
Oh, I read a series of books about happiness.
Okay.
Oh, and neuroscience, believe it or not, because the two are really,
Yeah.
like really complicated but exciting sort of fields of study. So I try to read as much about neuroscience and happiness.
Definitely. Are there any authors that you've been really into recently?
I like Pink is an author.
Okay.
His last name is Pink. There's a couple of others which I can't remember off the top of my head.
Have you been reading
But-
any or listening to any of Laurie Santos's work?
Oh, no.
She was one of my college professors, a class about the psychology of happiness
Oh my
and
gosh.
living a fulfilling life, and she's remarkable.
Well, it's like at the end of the day, pursuit of happiness is a pretty good thing. And so I feel like the more we know about it and the more we practice it, maybe it'll be contagious.
Definitely. And she talks a lot about, I know this is the rapid fire section of that I can talk. She talks a lot about how, some of the key strategies for achieving happiness, and one of the biggest strategies is giving back and being deeply connected to your community and building relationships at all. Everything that we've talked about today, I think, resonates deeply in a lot of her work.
Yes. And by the way, as you know, as a retired person, you're always thinking about longevity and how to have a strong and healthy life. And as you know, there's 3 things that you need to do to live to be 100. You need to eat well, you need to get a lot of sleep, and you need to have personal interaction with people. It's for your mental health, it's for your resilience, and it's for your meaning, purpose.
Really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, in one sentence, what is the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
Oh, gosh. One sentence. Okay. I guess I did a class with Deepak Chopra, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
And the most powerful thing I learned about being a leader and a person, it's not what you do, it's who you are.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, it's who you are. And I think people should take some time to turn off some noise in their life and figure out who they are.
Definitely. And what, to your point earlier about getting kids excited about potential career paths, when you were a kid growing up, what was your dream job?
I wanted to be a teacher.
What kind of teacher?
Maybe English.
Yeah.
I used to have a chalkboard down in the basement, and I would drag my brother in and teach him. I don't know. It just my teachers were so meaningful in my life. I just wanted to be like them. So I wanted to be a teacher.
It's incredible. What is your favorite weekend outing to do around Dallas?
Ooh, I like to be on a tennis court. And I used to play in a league. I'm still striving to do that. But there's some great tennis courts around town and beautiful places to be outside and play. Just play.
So I have one more question for you. Since you were a dancer, what is your favorite piece that you ever performed?
Ooh, Judith Jamison was an amazing dancer, and she did a piece called Cry, and I had a chance to do somewhat, not exactly like her, but I did have an opportunity to perform a piece that was very much like Cry, and that was the most powerful thing I think I did.
That's incredible. Well, Alfreda, thank you so much for being here and for sharing all of your incredible insights.
Well, thank you. It's been fun.
Well, to all of our Learning from Leaders listeners, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Learning from Leaders. If you enjoyed this episode, we invite you to subscribe now for monthly episode drops so that you can continue to learn from experienced business and community leaders to help you drive meaningful change in your community.